It's time for another weekly installment of Brunch with My Creator, where we take a deep dive look at your favorite content creator. We get an understanding of what drives and motivates them and why they do what they do. Let's look. Everyone that is joining the live, welcome, welcome, welcome. I spent a little bit of time. I have a new background that I wanted to roll out, and it is being stubborn with the background, and even like the format because I wanted to like give you. Well, let's see. I'm gonna do the. Hold on. I'm gonna do this. Boom. Okay. At the very
There we
least,
go.
I wanted to give you the
That's a
big
face
box.
only a mother could love.
I
Yeah.
wanted to give you the big box, Will. Yeah.
Let's see
No.
here. I got to show you this new, angry veteran. Every time, well, a lot of people do this, and I love it. It's no problem. But every time somebody comes on and challenges the polls or something like that, they reach out to me. So they created this. It's like the Batman signal. I don't know if you
I
can see
saw
it.
that. No, listen, because so the layout, it keeps it in like it keeps it in landscape, and so whenever
Yeah.
someone that I have up tries to share, then it doesn't look right, right? Um, so it's different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to figure this out. I have to figure this out. I really wanted to roll out the new background and all this other stuff, but I saw it. I saw the back signal with the W and everything. I was like, that's so cool. I saw when
Yeah.
you
I thought it was
posted
pretty
it.
cool too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially as a big, comic books fan as a kid. So,
Right. Well, hold on. Don't give away the secret sauce. Hey, Diva, how are you? Don't give away the secret sauce yet because I want to know more
no,
about
no,
that.
no. Hey, I'm an older guy, man. I got plenty to talk about.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, everyone, welcome to this week's installment of Brunch with My Creator. This week we have our special guest, Will Westmoreland. Will
hey,
is
everybody.
hello. Will is a poll specialist. Will, can you give him your tagline because I always mess it up and I don't want to mess it up this time. You are.
Well, there are a couple things I do, but I always introduce it as your favorite uh, rural, RURAL, which is a tough word for me to say, and I've been saying it for my entire life, but rural campaign and elections expert.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Will, so you are one of the most popular people around this time, right? I know you're a hard man to get a hold of because everybody wants to know what's happening in the election, right? And so,
Especially this election. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. So I want to dig into not only that, but the whole premise behind Brunch with My Creator is just to understand more about the creator, not about the content that they create, because we get that content every single day, but it's an understanding of the overall process and who we are and why we do what we do, right? So first and foremost, before we get into this chat, this is going to be an interactive event, right? So I am here and I am going to dig into things with Will, but while we are talking and learning, I will ask that we tap the screen, right? Tap, 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 share the live out. All of those wonderful things to get engagement, to get more people in, because towards the end, I am going to start looking at the chat and see if we have a couple of questions for Will. So if you guys are interested in knowing something about Will towards the end, please, please, please send those questions in. All right. So, Will, first and foremost, before we get into the why behind the man, tell us a little bit more about your content, your platform, what you actually do.
Yeah, so I started out maybe a year ago on TikTok, and I just did a few videos, and they were kind of, just focused on a whole host of different things. Really didn't have a focus in terms of my material. Like a lot of people that are new to TikTok, I was just kind of trying to figure it out. But then a couple of months ago, I got really serious about it because I started thinking, you know what? Everything I do from a business perspective is focused on helping get politicians elected, reaching out to voters, sensing, taking a temperature test of where voters stand and that kind of thing. And I thought, you know what? I bet people would be interested in hearing about this, like how's the sausage made kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so about 3-4 months ago, I just started making videos talking about polling, where the polling stood, how to understand polling, what were the good polls to look at, that kind of thing. And then I started to mix a couple of things into that over time. One, my company that I own, Highlander Political Strategies, we don't only facilitate polling, but we also do voter outreach. So odds are, if you've gotten a text message from a Senate campaign, or on election day you get a text reminding you to vote, we've probably sent one of those at one time or the other. And then in addition to that, I've always been a big advocate of agriculture, because I grew up on a farm when
I
I was
was
a
just
kid.
gonna say you were a farmer, right?
Yeah. So I've had a cow calf operation, and now I'm an agroforestry farmer. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to talk about the political stuff. I'm going to mix in the agricultural stuff, and it seems to have been a good combination. Not long ago, just 3 months ago, guys, I had like 2,000 followers, and I've been really fortunate. That's up to about 21,000 now, and really growing fast. So that's it. That's what I talk about, and it seems to have hit a spot.
Yeah, no, it really has. I mean, again, your content is resonating because, I mean, of course, the political climate is at an all-time high. Everyone is extremely engaged, and they want to know, who's going to be the next president of the United States. And,
Right.
a lot of people have doubted polls, right? Especially when I
Yeah.
think 2016 has made everyone skeptical. And you start to look at, like, different trend lines and what people are talking about. And so I think the fact that what you're doing, and again, giving the why behind it, the how the sausage is made, is such a huge thing, because it
Yeah.
instills that trust that people need to understand. Like, in my opinion, 2016 was it was a perfect storm. It was an outlier. It was a lot of things that a lot of people didn't see coming. So that why behind it is super important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll tell you, a lot of people talk about, you're not alone in that. Like, rarely do I go on to a live or something like that, and 100% of the people on there trust the polls, that kind of thing. And a lot of people bring up 2016. I will tell you this: there was a really, first of all, what I tell everybody is that 2016 polls, they still fell within the margin of error. So whenever we do polling, we build in what's called a margin of error. So you'll see a poll and it might show Harris up by 2, but it's got a 4% margin of error. That means she could be trailing by as much as 2, or she could be up by as much as 6. So in a 4% margin of error poll, that's 8 points of give there, either way of the number. So I always tell people, even the 2016 polls were within the margin of error.
oh, wow.
But there are two really special things that happened in 2016. And I always preface this by saying, reality doesn't care about what your feelings are, right?
That is true.
There are two things that we know happened. We've studied it, and it happened whether you believe it happened or not. The first thing is, the FBI director, James Comey, came out a week before the election and made the announcement that they were reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's server. Now, that was really unusual because the Justice Department had always taken the stance and philosophy of not publicly talking about investigations close to an election. And really their stance was, we're not going to talk about an investigation at all. But they made an exception to the rule, and Comey has been hammered for that since then.
Absolutely.
And then when they came back just a few days later and said, well, there was nothing there, we're closing the investigation, the announcement that there was nothing there didn't get anywhere near the play in the public view that the announcement that it had been reopened did. The other thing that happened, and you know this because I watch a lot of your lives, so you know this for a fact. Trump people never want to admit that there was collusion with Russia, because Bill Barr, Trump's attorney general, came out and said no collusion. But if you actually read the Mueller report, there was one very clear-cut case of collusion, and that is that Paul Manafort, who was Trump's campaign manager, he sent targeted data, voter data in the swing states. He sent that to the Russian intelligence services, and some people think that the Russians dumped as much as $1 billion into focusing on those swing states. And they delivered all kinds of crazy messages into there about Hillary Clinton. And there have been 2 studies that have been done by universities, and those show that those 2 things combined together swung that election in the last week by as much as 2.5–3%. So I always tell people, don't be too hard on the pollsters for 2016, because number one, the polls were still within the margin of error, and number two really crazy things happened. But we made a lot of changes after that, and in 2022, the polling was the most accurate it's ever been in the history of polling.
Yeah, no, I think that's, it's important to explain those factors and also make sure that people, one, it's important because, like you said, it helps create that trust and explanation for what happened in 2016. Two, it shows what happened as far as 2020 and how productive we were. But also, three, it creates that vigilance, right? That ability to say, we know what to look for. And I think there's a lot of disinformation that's out there, and there's a lot of bad actors who are continuing to target the United States in our election process. So I think it's really great for people like yourself, people like Diva, who's in the chat. Hey, Diva.
I'm sorry down there.
Yeah, to dispel those notions and really speak to those things that's disinformation, and how do we actually fight that, right? And I think that's a wonderful thing that so many different creators have taken this platform, especially TikTok, and given that view to everyone. So that's great.
Yeah, and Santana, the other thing I try to do is I don't want people to just take my word for things. So I really focus on trying to put the facts out there as well. So like when I first started talking about which polls are the best polls, I walked everybody through how do we rate polls? How do we know which ones are good, which ones are not good? And then I gave people the sources that they could go to confirm all that. So I always tell people, don't just take anybody's word for it. Do your own research, but do it at legitimate sites.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So I want to do this because, and Val, hey Val, that's my guy Val in the chat. You know Val?
I don't know if I do or not, to be honest. That as your account grows, you get so many people that follow you. It's tough sometimes to.
Yeah, no. Listen, so Val, he co-hosts with Diva a lot, and he is so knowledgeable.
Oh, okay.
He is awesome. Him and Jim. Anyway, I want to get into a little bit more. So we know your content, right? We know what you do. We know what you put out. But the thing that's super interesting to me is your videos, more than when you go live, because when you go live, it's really engaging and there's a lot of information. But your videos, I love watching your videos because, one, your videos aren't short, right? You have long videos, and I literally, I'll put my headphones on and I'll sit my phone down and I'll just listen to you talk, right? Because it's packed with so much information. So how, for you, it's kind of a difference between like your videos and your live. What's your approach when you think about like what type of content you want to put out when it comes to the videos you're posting on your page versus, what you're going to just talk about on a live every day or whenever you're doing an event? What's that process like?
What I do is, just in terms of trying to figure out what I think people want to see, I spend, and I'm sure you do too, I spend a lot of time on TikTok, and I'm, scrolling through different videos, not just watching the people that I regularly follow, but trying to watch a lot of videos and doing searches like, this, I know I'm a geek, but so are you. I'll go up there in the search button and I'll search Trump agricultural policy, or I'll search people hate the polls or don't trust the polls or something like that. And I'll watch a lot of videos that give me a sense of, okay, what's the public pulse out there regarding this issue? And then the second thing I do is I just feel like most people have an innate sense for BS. I did a video the other day about a story my grandpa used to tell, about walking up on the horse biscuits. And I just think like people have this sense of.
That was so funny. I love that one. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Somebody told me, somebody sent me a private message and said that there was a Cheech and Chong like joke or something about that. So I've got to go try to find that.
Okay.
But I really try to document, like when I'm talking about, for instance, like agricultural issues, I I really try to shoot straight with people, because let's face it, no party is perfect on any issue. Like, I've made a couple of videos now where I talk about the fact that I'm not afraid to criticize my own party. And I think that's one of the problems we have today, is that people are just one-sided in their criticism. To research the issues, I like to the issue from the facts perspective, and then I try to include that. Like, I'm getting ready to do a video about internet expansion in rural areas, and that's an area where the Republicans have dropped all the balls, but it's also an area where the Democrats have dropped a few as well.
Absolutely.
So as I'm doing the research, I just try to factually document each one of the points that I make. And I like to throw articles up or studies up or backgrounds up as I'm speaking, just to show, okay, this isn't just Will talking. Here's where you can go. Google this article, Google this source. Here's where you can go, to verify that what I'm saying is true. And then just trying to keep it interesting, Santana. Just don't, like, when I do a video on farming and why the Trump administration was so bad for farming, I don't just talk about one issue for 8 minutes. I like to go through a series of things, so that there's something in there for everybody. Maybe you're a row crop farmer, maybe you're a cattle rancher, maybe you're an agroforester. So I'm going through there and try to talk about multiple topics on the same issue, so that everybody stays interested as I go. So that's kind of how I approach it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people might take for granted what being a content creator means, and how much you do have to quote unquote study or prepare or think outside of the box. I tend to try to put myself, especially because a lot of my content lately has been around the whole debate as far as which side of the aisle you're on. And so I put myself in those Republican spaces, right? It's funny because I get people saying, hey, I saw you on like a MAGA live. That's way different. I'm like, yeah, I'll go to their chats. I'll sit, I'll listen, and then I'll go up and I'll engage with them. And it's not, it's not me trying to stir the pot or anything like that. I truly think that if you're going to make good content and you're going to be knowledgeable, you have to understand multiple aspects of what you're talking about. You can't be so
100%
locked into one thing that you're just going to say, oh, this is it. Right. So I think that's great. And then also the way that the thing that I appreciate about your content is not only the facts, but the humor. Right. And you mentioned the horse biscuits. Right. I literally laughed out loud with that story. But then that humor was followed by so much information. And I think stuff like that pulls people in, and then it holds them to get your message across. So I think that's brilliant how you do that.
Well, all the old timers used to do that, and we still do it out in rural areas. I mean, the African American community is famous for this. I mean, the old timers in the African American community all use humor, to make an important point, because when you can associate a fact with a good story, you don't forget it, right? Yeah. I guarantee you there are people that remember what I said in that video about Project 2025 because they remember the story that I told, about the two farmers. Yep. And here where I grew up in Southwest Missouri, the rural people out here, they still do that to this day. They'll tell a funny story when they're trying to get a point across. And lots of times it's just the story, the funny story. There's no fact associated. You just get cognitively, you understand, okay, I get the point you're trying to make. Like they'll if somebody's trying to tell you that you're gullible, they might tell you a story about a bear being on the loose on your farm, but then they'll end the story and say, well, hey, Will, I got to go, but don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
Absolutely.
And it takes you just a little while to remember, oh, okay, I get what they're saying,
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I like to do that. Number one, because a good story is just good no matter what. But there's a tactician perspective of that, which is if you can associate a good story with the facts, then people will remember it. Absolutely. So that's what I'm trying to do there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job at that. So
I appreciate that.
I want to, someone said W Southern Charm. Listen, Will, that's the one thing that I will say. We share that. We have Southern Charm, and I think people don't understand how important that is, right? To be able to to grease the skids, right? To make it easier for people to have conversation, because some people can be a little bit harsh or off-putting or whatever, but
Yeah.
that Southern charm lends itself to us. Will we both share that one?
Yeah. And listen, Santana, I want to say this to people that are out there that maybe think they can't be that way. I wasn't always that way every time I was on social media. I was a pretty good debater in high school and college. I debated in high school, and I won third place in the nation in Lincoln Douglas debate.
Wow.
And I turned around in college and did the exact same thing. So just to be honest, I could be a little bit of an assassin back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would come after people, and I would come after them really hard. But I just had a good. There was a rural woman who worked on the older woman who worked on the Clinton campaign with me, you know, back in the day, and she reconnected with me about 4 years ago and said, "Hey, Will, you're making these wonderful points, but you're losing your audience because you're coming after them so hard." And I just really spent a lot of time self-reflecting on that, and I tried to change my approach. So I just say that, Santana, because an old dog can learn new tricks. I did.
Absolutely.
And I would just encourage anybody out there to do the same thing. So I do what you do. I like to go into MAGA Live sometimes and just try to keep it cool. And I like to talk to MAGA people on my lives. And what I do, and some people say, well, you're scared of them or you're running from them, is if they start to scream and yell and get a little silly, I just drop them.
Yeah.
Because that's not what my lives are about. But I've had some really good long conversations with MAGA people, and sometimes change their mind. And I wouldn't say I've had one change my mind yet, but they've certainly had me go back and, you know, maybe research their point of view a little bit more. You know.
No, I completely agree. And I mean, I think if we're going to have a productive conversation, we have to bring the temperature down, and we have to really try to.
Yeah.
I find that if you can logically walk through certain points to people, then it makes that connection, right? And especially if you can hit points that are not necessarily what they're talking about. And then even like, you know, myself, and I see, hey, Erica. Hey, Black Historian. So my co-host, Erica, she's in the chat now. And so what I've started to do, or what I try to make sure that I do anytime that I bring somebody up, I like to make a personable connection, right? Instead of it just, you know, someone coming in hot and heavy or whatever. I think having that conversation, that initial connection, like, you know, hey, where are you from? What are you doing? What do you like? And that kind of drops people guards. And I say all that to say it's not necessarily about... it's not necessarily about what you say, but how you say it, and people are more receptive when you can 100%. Actually give them that message in a way where they don't feel like they're being attacked. So,
yeah, and I don't know where you learned this, because I notice you do it too, and I do it. Is real long time ago, my grandmother, who was a librarian, she told me whenever somebody starts to get really loud and amped up, just lower your voice and calm down. And it's amazing how they follow you to that place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
They just will follow. It's hard to keep yelling at somebody and calling them names if they're just being polite and, you know. But I did, you know, I think I did get fired up on TikTok one time. There was a guy in Angry Veterans Live that was just praising Trump for wanting to kick out all undocumented workers. And I was trying to make the point to him, do you realize that means we would kick out 40% of the agricultural workers in this country? And do you understand the impact that would have on food production and cost? And he just kept repeating himself over and over. So for about 3 minutes, you know, Matt muted him out, and I just went into old debater mode. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like you, I try to keep it calm and cool and collected. So
yeah, no, listen. So I my first real job out of college was at a call center, and I quickly advanced within the company because I learned something at a early stage in my career, and that's if people match energy, right? And so people would call in and they would be upset about this, that, or whatever, and I would always just lower my tone and slow down my speech.
Yeah.
And it's hard for someone to argue or yell at you if you're not giving them that same energy. So absolutely. But now,
that's right. Hey, Santana, if you don't mind me asking, and don't say it if you don't feel comfortable, but what company did you work for?
Verizon Wireless.
Okay.
Verizon Wireless. When
the reason I ask you that is I was I was a wireless vice president at AT&T and at Sprint. So
Okay, yeah, no, I never. Those were the competitors.
learned a lot of those same skills working in the call center.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
when I was in college, I worked for DirecTV, and that kind of opened me up. And then right after college, I started working for Verizon Wireless, which paid a lot more. And I progressed from being on the
Yeah.
phones to management, and all this started to climb up the corporate ladder. And then I left the company and went to PepsiCo and continued, right? But yeah, I learned that skill there.
Yeah.
But I want to get into this because you said something, and this was you set me up perfectly for my next question. So the content that you create isn't necessarily, let's say, controversial, right? My spaces, my
Yeah.
lives can be a little bit high strung at times, but yours is so informative, and it's so like matter of fact. But anytime that you do anything, whether it's creating content or just speaking an opinion, or you can walk outside and say it is a beautiful day out, and someone's going to say, no, this is the worst day ever. So with
Yeah.
that being said, what have been some of the challenges that you've come across when it comes to being a visible content creator, when it comes to possibly any negativity that you've dealt with, or any pushback that you've had on the actual content that you're putting out?
I always try to tell people, I try to do what you did and relate it back. I remind people over and over again that the facts don't care what your feelings are, right? And I'll give you a good example of this. As part of what I do for a living, I went to a conference one time. It was a military conference in St. Louis, and there was a lot of focus in that conference on climate change. A lot of people don't know this, but the federal government is putting together a plan right now to move multiple bases back from the coastal regions because climate change is raising the sea level.
Oh,
Or
wait, Will, did you not see the other day that Trump said, well, he just thinks that, those places that
Yeah.
have waterfront property is just going to have more waterfront property? I said, that's not how that
Yeah.
works. That is not how that works.
He just didn't explain that it was going to be in the basement and the living room of the property. That's the only little tidbit he left out. But we were at a little meeting there. There was a full bird colonel in there, and he was talking about these plans and things like that. And one of these guys that the only thing missing was the MAGA hat. He made the comment. He goes, "Well, it's good to see the military's woke, and they're talking about this climate change too." And I mean, without missing a beat, this colonel said that, the problem is the facts don't give a shit about your feelings. Now, that's a quote from him, not me. And I mean, he just dressed this guy down, and he said, this is the military of the United States of America, and we have to have a plan for the things that are really happening. We can't bury our head in the sand like people do and just say, well, we'll let it take care of itself. So I try to, in a little bit more polite fashion, I try to do what that colonel did and say, the facts don't care about your feelings. The other thing that I'll do, if somebody's doubting what I say, or they think I'm making it up, or they don't think I know what I'm talking about, I'll ask them, I'll say, what do you do for a living? And maybe they'll say, well, I'm a car mechanic. And I'll say, okay, well, what if I walked into your garage while you were working to fix my truck, and I said, no, this is how you need to do it. Here's how you need to do it. And you find out I've got no experience at all in working on vehicles. How are you going to rate my opinion on what you're doing? Well, I think it would be pretty poor. Yep. Well, that's kind of how I'm looking at what you're arguing with me about right now. So all those same tricks that you use, Santana, I call them tricks, but they're really just communication methods that you use to try to get people to understand. Now, I will tell you this, you're going to hear it here first. I am going to start putting a little bit more challenging material out there about the culture wars. Okay. Because one of the biggest reasons that farmers and ranchers follow Trump, even knowing that he's bad for farming, is because of the culture wars. Mm-hmm. And like I remind farmers here all the time, without taking a side, for instance, on transgender sports and that kind of thing, I'll remind farmers here all the time, you're literally going to vote for somebody that crashed your industry because 3 students in the state of Missouri who are going through this process want to play sports. 3 students want, how does that impact your life? How does that change the price of goods that you farm and sell? So I'm going to start attacking this, mentality out there about the culture wars a little bit more, to start getting farmers and ranchers, to think about what they're doing and voting against their best interests. But I use some of the, just to answer your question, I use some of the same tactics that you do.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I think that's a great point, and even more so, I love the fact that you're doing that, right?
yeah,
Because I think a lot of people think that they have to stand for certain things, and I don't know. I'm of the belief that one, I care about things that don't necessarily impact me, but two, I don't hold things against other people that don't impact me. And so like, you're
right,
absolutely right. I have people who come in and they say, "Oh, you know the border is a mess and we're having a crisis and all this other stuff." And I say, "Hey, so where do you live?" "Oh, I live in
right,
Iowa." "Oh, okay, so super close to the border, right?" Like, like what are we talking
right.
about? But also, like, these are talking points, and I
Yeah,
think
there
it's
aren't a
a
lot of illegals coming across the border with Missouri. Not
no,
happening.
no, it's insane. It's super interesting, but I love the fact that you're actually dealing with that, and also the fact that you use that sense of logic and explanation. So that's awesome. Okay, so the last thing that I want to get to, and I'll say this because there's a couple people that are trying to hop up into the chat and sorry, into the
Okay.
box, and so I'll say this, guys. If you have a question for Will. And please come up and have a question. If you have a question for Will, hop in the box. Will, is it okay if we take like 2 questions?
Oh yeah, I'm not in any rush. We can take as many questions as you want.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So if you have a question for Will, hop up in the box and I will bring you up and we will give you an opportunity to actually, question our wonderful content creator. Also, if you have not done so, please, please, please give him a follow. Give your guest, tap the screen, and we will go through a couple of questions and then we'll kind of put a bow on this thing. But so Will, the last question that I actually have for you.
Yes.
It's not about politics. It's not about polling. It's not even about farming. Um, it's about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well,
And
that's one of my favorite subjects,
yeah,
Santana.
yeah,
Hey, now you're treading on dangerous ground here, my man.
yeah.
So be
No,
careful.
listen. So I'm gonna speak from a place of envy, a place of envy because I am a Carolina Panther fan. Um,
I've been to many Carolina Panthers games from my days back living in North Carolina.
okay, okay. So
But I
you,
was fortunate. I went when they were really good.
yeah, yeah. No. Um, my last question to you is, when will it end? Like, when can we have our league back and not have to worry about the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl every single year? Like, when will it end? When this cannot go on forever, Will. We want the league back and we want a chance to win. Tell me when it's gonna stop.
Never say never, man. Never say never. No, I think here's what I think. If the front office of the Kansas City Chiefs drops the ball as Mahomes and Kelsey start to age out, then I think you'll see a time in the not so distant future, maybe 5 years from now, where the Kansas City Chiefs will decline. To a point where, listen, I got to tell you something, Santa. Here's what you got to understand about me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 12 years old, I was out with my grandfather on our cattle farm,
Mm-hmm.
and we were digging post holes
Mm-hmm.
for a riding arena because we raised horses.
Mm-hmm.
And my glove on the very last hole that day, it was Good Friday, 1980. My glove got caught in that power takeoff equipment, and it wrapped my arm around that
Oh,
power
I saw
takeoff.
that video. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And long story short, I spent a little over 2 months in the hospital recovering from that farm accident. And while I was in there, I just tell you this to explain why I will die a Kansas City Chiefs fan. While I was in there, the Kansas City Chiefs all got together as a team. Now, this is back when Bill Kinney and Arnold Mergado and Art Still and all, this is probably before the day of any of you that are on here. But they got together and they all signed a pennant and sent it to me in the hospital.
Oh wow.
And I hung that pennant in my hospital room and I looked at it every single day. So there are not much that the Chiefs could do to ever cause me not to be a fan. And unfortunately, back in 2007, when I moved from North Carolina to Missouri, somehow the moving company lost the pennant.
Oh
And
wow.
I've been heartbroken about that ever since it happened, that they lost that pennant. But so I was there through all the years when we would go 14-2 and lose in the first round of the playoffs, or the years when we only won 3 or 4 games. So I always tell people, don't be a bandwagon fan, because a day will come around when your team just hits their stride. And that's where we are right now, man. So we'll get bad again.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Eventually it'll happen. But I just hope no time soon,
I tell you what, Patrick Mahomes is just a cheat code. He is just too good.
He is, man.
Oh,
I've
it
never
makes
seen
no
any.
sense. Like, he's just, yeah. And a funny thing is, I have a similar story why I'm an LA Lakers fan. I'm not going to go into it. Maybe I'll share that with people at another point. But I will just say that I know the owner of the LA Lakers, Jenny Buss, and there is nothing that anyone could ever do to get me to turn against the team. And I was there when we were winning championships. I was there when we were missing the playoffs. I was there.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man. So I'm still there and I'm locked in. But anyway, that's enough from me.
All right.
I'll just say, Kansas City has my respect. Even the Royals to an extent, because I know that's your team too. So
I like the Royals, but the Cardinals are actually my favorite baseball team. And then I'm, of course, the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
But now we don't have a basketball team here. So, like all white farm kids that grew up in the Midwest, I'm a Celtics fan because of Larry Bird.
Of course you are. Oh my
and
gosh.
I admit it, man. Every white kid that shot a basketball in the Midwest in the 80s is a Larry Bird Boston Celtics fan.
I hate the Celtics with every ounce of everything.
I knew when you said that about the Lakers, I was like, I just need to get it on the table now so it doesn't.
Oh, you are not a nice guy today.
Yeah, I know.
All
right. Enough about the Celtics. I won't bring them up again.
No, you're fine. All right, Will. So we'll start off with our questions, and Val, I will let you start. Val, what question do you have for Will?
I'm trying to figure out if I need to unfollow because of the Celtics.
Exactly right. He just made me second guess it.
Well,
Val, I know you, man. You're not a hater, so don't be a hater.
Last year was not good for me as a Mavericks fan. But anyway, no. Well, I asked it to you down in the comments, but I'd like you to expand on it a little bit, because I asked you about when you talked about the culture wars.
Yeah,
and that actually kind of caught my attention when you brought it up, because it's something I think about a lot too. And is this really what we're fighting? Are we fighting cultures? And I was, when I asked you there, I'd like you to expand on the religious aspect and what your thoughts are on the aspect of that, because to me right now, it's where a lot of it I feel begins.
Yeah. So I always tell people right up front, if they ask, I'm not embarrassed by it. I am a believer. And, partially because of the experience I had when I was a kid with that farm accident, right? There were and I've got a video way back at the beginning where I have like a 3-part video that talks about what I experienced. And you could, a lot of people could make the argument that it was just chemicals in my brain or the shock or whatever, but I'm a believer. And what I think a lot of religious people, let's forget about just Christianity for a minute. I think what a lot of religious people have forgotten is that separation of church and state there is to protect religion as much as it's there to protect the state, right? So when I talk about addressing the culture wars, one of the things I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to do a live that is dedicated to this, is I'm going to try to talk to Christians about, the other side of the coin. What could happen to religion if we abolish the wall between church and state? Because to me, the foundation of the culture war in many cases is religion, Val. And what a lot of Christians can't seem to wrap their minds around is that, when people came here in the beginning of our nation, when it was a fledgling nation, and before that, many of them were trying to escape religious persecution. Now, unfortunately, what they did is they came here, and in a lot of cases, they did the same thing to people here that they were trying to escape where they came from. But to your point, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was running a Senate campaign one time here in the state of Missouri, and I had a candidate that I was working with that was running against a candidate that was, all about getting sponsored prayer back in public schools. And I told my candidate, I wrote down a question and I said, after she goes through her spiel, I want you to ask this question. And they get up on the stage and she goes through her spiel about state-sponsored prayer. And at the end, he says, so just to be clear, my candidate says, so just to be clear, you want to make it so that a teacher in a classroom can sponsor prayer to their students. And she says, yes, that's what I want. And he waited for a minute, for dramatic effect. And then he said, well, what if that first prayer is a Muslim prayer? And the room gets quiet and she got quiet and she started, so the challenge there, and don't anybody get me wrong, it wasn't saying anything negatively at all about the Muslim faith. It was challenging a Christian to say, if we put, religiosity into law, who's to say that it's going to be the laws you want? And so I think we've got to address it from a culture perspective, because religion is the foundation of, most of the culture wars in this country. And where I live, Val, it's the number one reason why all these farmers and ranchers who know the Democrats would be better for them on policy refuse to vote for them, because of AB and reproductive rights and, LGBTQ rights. So I might be biting off a little bit more than I can chew, but I don't think I would be genuine to myself if I didn't address it as a creator, if that makes sense.
If you ever do a live on this, because right now, and Santana can tell you this because he's listening to me speak, I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And we've had very similar backgrounds too. I've ran campaigns and stuff like that, so it makes a lot of sense. And that's why I asked the question, because when you brought it up, I was like, okay, this is piquing my interest, because this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while as well.
Yeah, you're not going to get where I live. You're not.
I'm in Texas.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm in Southwest Missouri, and in Southwest Missouri, like my county went 86% for Trump. Okay, I'm not going to convince a missionary Baptist that lives in my county that women should have the right to choose. Okay, what I can possibly convince them though of is we shouldn't take away that right in the law because of religious reasons, because someday there might be somebody there that doesn't agree with your religious values, that tries to pass laws that prevent you from worshiping the way you want to. That might be an argument I can win over time, if that makes sense.
Well, one of the things I've actually been using, Will, is, and something I found, I'm saying that, I've known about forever, but something I just started recently using lately is the Thomas Jefferson Danbury Church Letters.
Yeah, we used to get, you already know this, and so does the Black History, but we used to give this to senators every time they were elected, right? They got a copy of the Jefferson Bible with all the miracles taken out of it. For those of you that don't know what it is, Thomas Jefferson took all of the spiritual, miracle-based items out of the Bible, literally cut them out. And we would give that to senators to say, the Sermon on the Mount is a pretty good philosophy to live by, but let's take out all of the other stuff that causes us to dislike and hate one another.
Right. And I'll move on to somebody. I'll let somebody else go.
Perfect.
Yeah, good to talk to you, Val.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was awesome to talk to you, actually.
Listen, Val is amazing. I would love to actually watch a live with you two. So, if you guys would make that happen.
I already follow Val, so okay. I must know Val. But I'm 57, and I don't even remember where I put my shoes this morning, so sorry, Val.
I'm 59. I know the problem.
Yeah.
I would fan out watching you two do a live because of your styles. Okay, thank you, Val. I'm going to drop you down, my friend.
Not a problem.
Okay, so we will move on to Don. Don, what is your question for Will?
So I'm new to both of you, and I have a question about, so I'm supporting Kamala Harris. I have a good number of people around me that are Trump supporters. I don't know that I could necessarily say they're diehard MAGA. I think they're more Republican.
Yeah.
But in talking to a few, I want to be as educated as possible, and I got stumped on one question that they asked me. So with regard to the economy, we were talking about Trump essentially, flirting with the idea of trickle-down economics and how that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And in the reverse, with Harris saying, let's tax the wealthy, let's try to help out the lower middle class folks. And the question that got put back to me was, well, don't you think that that is just going to cause them
Yeah.
to raise prices and put us in the same cycle over and over again?
Yeah, no, and I hear that. I hear that all the time too, Don. And the best answer to that question is that, well, that's not what's happened before. So the difference between what you're talking about and what Harris is trying to do and what trickle down economics is trying to do, these are two separate things, right? So just for everybody else, because I know you know what it is, Don, but just for everybody else, trickle down economics is this philosophy that if you cut taxes on the wealthy and you give them more money to spend, what they're going to do is they're going to take that money and they're going to invest in new factories and they're going to open up new opportunities for everybody else further down the food chain. But what we know, it's a proven fact, and there's all kinds of data out there to support it, is that when you cut taxes for the wealthy, they typically do a couple of things with that. Number one, they hoard it, or number two, from a corporate perspective, and Santana and I have both worked for companies that have done this in the past. They do stock buybacks to make their own stock stronger. Right. So it's imaginary, this trickle down effect that happens. It's just never happened economically in our country before, beginning with Reagan, when it first became, like a really active philosophy. But through most of our history, since taxation began, especially since income taxation began, taxing the wealthier at a higher rate because they take advantage more of the services. If you think about it, if you're the CEO of a trucking company, the federal government is basically supplying you at cost all of the infrastructure you need, to run your trucks over the road every day, et cetera. So what we know in the past, like when I was born, the corporate tax rate was 90% on corporations. All right. And what we know is when that happens, we're able to provide more services. Like we can make sure people get a good college education. We can make sure the roads and bridges are in good shape. We can electrify rural areas. We can get broadband out to rural areas. These are things that everyone can take advantage of when they go to start up businesses, when they go to expand the businesses that they already have. So the economic impacts of helping the middle class with higher tax rates on the wealthy, history's already shown that that's a much more effective approach than trickle down. And, the truth is, you can say that they'll just charge, higher rates and things like that, but historically they haven't done that. Yep. Because guess what? When more people move up into the middle class, they buy more products from these same people that complain about taxes being higher. So that's how I would kind of handle that one, Don.
Yeah, and just to kind of co-sign Will's last point, and something that I like to just I like to take people through like a thought process, and my feedback or pushback is always, okay, so if that's the case, if you're saying that if we cut taxes on the ultra wealthy and the rich and these corporations, and they're going to raise prices to offset I'm sorry, not cut taxes, but increase taxes, right. And they're gonna raise prices to offset that. What's the excuse for the reason why they've raised prices so far if they've had low taxes? Right. I mean, what are we talking about? Because, historically speaking, they've gotten multiple tax breaks, and Will clearly stated what they do with those tax breaks, but they've continued to charge us more for those products. So I like to take them through that actual thought process. And then even more so, I like to remind them that the country was in a Great Depression, right? 1930s Great Depression. And what happened, what helped get us out of the Great Depression was the amount that we taxed the ultra wealthy and rich and companies that actually created the strongest middle class that the United States has ever seen. And
we deficit spend.
Exactly.
We made the decision to deficit spend to get out of the Great Depression.
Yeah. And to Will's last point, when you do strengthen the middle class, because these people who do have money, the upper class and the corporations or whatever, but the people who have money, they don't necessarily spend the money, they save. right? And
Right.
when you put more money in the pockets of those middle class and even lower class Americans, they spend that money, right? They spend the money to improve their life, and then also, I hate to say it like this, but they try to live their lives and enjoy a little bit of their life. So putting more money in the pockets of the middle class will improve America as a whole. So I just take them through that thought process.
Yeah, I like that, talking about that historically this system has worked. And, I was taking them through, greedflation and
Yep.
shrinkflation
Yep.
and how, and all of that. And they were still kind of coming back to me. They were coming around to a lot of the Harris points when we talked about it. And we talked about how I think so many people don't understand that there's a difference between inflation and cost of goods.
Yep.
And I think that they think because our food costs and our, costs of items that we purchase and even insurance things, that means inflation is still crazy high. So trying to explain the difference, it's hard. And I think I adore Harris. I think she's doing a fantastic job, but I do wish she would try a little bit harder to explain the economy.
Yeah.
Because I think she's losing some people still on the economy.
And if I could say something, not trying to be rude, you guys, but for the last 3 years that we had Democrats in the office, it seemed like everything just went bad. I was raised a Democrat because my mother was. I never knew what that was. Because I'm black. So the black people go for the Democrats. So I always thought Democrat is a way to go because, my people are black. But as a working man, I work 7 days a week. I see that things were so terrible in the last 3.5 years. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm going for Trump, but because of the immunity thing, but Democrats are not doing anything good for us.
Okay,
Especially
hold
with all
on,
this
hold on,
immigration
hold on one second,
going
Wes.
on.
Hold on one second, Wes, because I want to let me pause you just for a second. I want to make sure that I level set and you understand what we're doing here. So this isn't necessarily a debate, or we're not talking, i.e., about politics. This space today is called Brunch with My Creator. And it's a conversation with different content creators. I do it on a weekly basis. Today's guest is Will Westmoreland. He's a polls expert, and we talk about what you do and why you do and things like that. And right now, what we're actually doing, we're not having a panel to, i.e., necessarily discuss politics or anything like that, but we're giving people who have a question opportunity to ask Will the question. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, and we can definitely do it. I'll be on later tonight, late night with Santana. I think Diva is still in the chat right now. She does a daily live as well, where you can push back and do those type of things. But in this space, we just want to focus on the creator, and this time is for people to ask those questions of the creator. So I don't really want to get into a back and forth about, Democrats or Republican. So Don had that
And
question.
I apologize, guys. I'm probably the one that kind of went down that
you're
rabbit
perfectly
hole.
fine.
So.
You're perfectly fine. And when we get to Wes, I mean, if he has that question and he wants to pose it to Will, then we can definitely do so. But I just want to respect the idea about what we're doing today and not necessarily get into a back and forth. And also, again,
my apologies.
no
Got
worries,
you.
no worries, my friend. Late Night with Santana is on every night at 10 p.m. Eastern. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. That always throws me off. And so we can go back. I would love to have you in then, but I apologize. Don, thank you so much for the question. Thank you for coming up and actually covering that with Will. I appreciate you speaking with us.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
No worries. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Santana, I always tell people too about trickle down. It's like, if you're worried about that, the CEO of Ford Motor Company being able to buy a new yacht, the Republican tax plan will get that CEO the yacht, but nobody else gets anything. The Democratic tax plan will allow the middle class to buy 50 million new cars, and that CEO is still going to get his yacht.
Yep.
So everybody's taken care of under the Democratic tax plan.
Yep.
I would just say, I do want to just say one thing real quick to West. Here's what I do, West, whenever I'm taking a look. Whenever I hear somebody say, we're worse off the last 3 years, there's no doubt about the fact that the comeback from COVID has been very hard on everybody, because the entire world, not just the United States, the entire world suffered from the loss of the supply chain. And even though our inflation rate was much better than the rest of the world, we still experienced cost increase because of that. So what I always tell people is this, and I say this respectfully, if you can identify specifically the reasons why you think we're not better off, and then you can specifically say what policies Trump has to make that better, then I will respect your opinion on voting for Trump. Where I've run into an issue, in these debates is lots of times people can't specifically identify how it's the Democrats' fault that the issues that they've got occurred, and then they can't specifically speak to how is Trump going to make it better. But listen, if you can do both of those things just in general, then I've got no problem with somebody that supports him if they can do those two things. So hopefully that makes sense.
Bill,
Hey, David.
hi, Bill. Hi, Santana.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Bill, to what you were talking about, I want to talk something nobody's talking about. During the Clinton time, when the business tax rate was 42%, I think, he did something no Democrat president has done, or any president for the last 100 years: social mobility. No president has moved the social. I mean, that was the first time in American history that poverty went down. The middle class became bigger. The rich also got richer, and everybody prospered. Why?
LBJ did the same thing. If you go back and look at the statistics, the Great Society.
Well, modern times, at least modern times. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's fine.
So, why is people don't realize that time? Everybody, I remember. I used to go to the States a lot that time. Everybody was enjoying the economy, from the boss to the lower guy. Everyone was like enjoying life. America was peaceful. America was growing. It was called the Merkel growth. That decade, there was no recession, never, right? And it was all because of smart economic ideas, taxing the rich, but also investing in the economy, investing in infrastructure, all these good stuff that Clinton did.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe we should go back to those things, or that is just a fluke, or is it we can replicate it again?
I think we're trying to. The big advantage that Clinton had is that as much as the Republicans talked about being obstructionists back then, they finally came together to pass legislation with one another. And Clinton, if you think back to that, Clinton had to make a lot of concessions. I mean, he had to reduce the amount of the welfare safety net. He had to do welfare to work. There are certain things that he had to do, but it's really difficult now for a Democratic president to accomplish these things without a Democratic Senate and House to help them get there, because politics has come to the point now where I'm going to vote against every single initiative that you've got because I don't want to see you be successful. And that's why it was so admirable that Biden was able to push through the infrastructure initiative that led to so many jobs, et cetera. But and listen, I'll just say this because I know Santana wants to keep this focused, in one direction, but that's the whole reason I'm a Democrat. I mean, it's what I said before. Facts don't care about your feelings, and it doesn't matter what source you look at, okay? You can go to governmental sourcing, you can go to private sector sourcing, you can look at think tanks and study groups. There's no question that since World War II, Democratic presidents and legislatures have been way better for the American economy than Republican ones. So,
no, I
anyway,
think we can go even way before that. I think Democrats create more. But I get your point that Clinton had the advantage of also having the Cold War ended, so he could cut the military budget. So I forgot about that point.
Well, and he had politicians willing to work with him. Don't ever underestimate that. For those of you that are a little bit older, like David and I, those were the days of Bob Dole and George Mitchell, where they would argue all day long, but at the end of the day, they would come together to pass legislation, and that doesn't happen much anymore.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, Santana. It's nice coming to your live the first time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I always check you out, so I appreciate you coming up and having a conversation.
David's great. David's great.
Okay.
He is.
See you, Will. Yeah. Bye,
See
everyone.
you, buddy. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump over to Sarah. Sarah, thank you for waiting patiently. What would you like to ask Will?
My question for Will was more as a creator. I think you host a bunch of lives and have a pretty good handle on how to communicate effectively without letting things get out of hand or overwhelm you. And I noticed, Santana, you're pretty good at this too. And I understand that it's a skill set that everybody can learn, but just from what I've observed in a lot of the lives, women seem to get a lot more flack than men do.
Yeah.
So my question was really if you have noticed anything, any common trait in the more successful women lives, because it kind of seems like we need to bring a proverbial bat with us to beat the men down or unconscious just so we can get a sentence out.
Ooh, Will.
Hey, if that's what it takes, do it. That's
Would-
how I feel about that.
Would you mind? Would you mind if I start? If I
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sarah. So the thing that I've learned, because it's a thing, right? I have my amazing co-host Erica. She's down in the chat, and I enjoy her for multiple reasons. One, because she's smarter than me, right? I mean, it's just plain and simple. She's definitely smarter than me, but also she brings a sense of levity to the conversations that I don't have. But the thing that I have noticed is the way that men will talk to me versus how they talk to her, which is a huge problem for me. And I think the thing that we have to do, one of my favorite creators is Diva Talks, right? And Diva Talks, yeah, she clearly says, I do not let men speak over me on my live. I love that line. She immediately checks them, and she actually cuts them off, because what it is it's misogyny, right? It's flat out misogyny, because there are certain men that won't speak to me the same way that they speak to Erica, and so I think it comes back to a couple of different things. One, we have to call these men out, right? Because not saying it's not women, but they're more often than not it's men, and so we have to call these men out, and we have to flat out say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. It's not acceptable, and if you can't accept it, you got to go, right? And I think it's really important that the men do that as well. For some reason, it feels like other men, one, they don't hold men accountable. That's why we live in a society of grape culture, where those people are unwilling, or people that are victims of grape or SA are unwilling to come forward because people don't believe them, right? People are naturally going to take the side of men. That's why you see people like Donald Jimothy Trump, who is able to run for the president of the United States with all of these allegations, and even being civilly held liable for SA. You see that because we live in a society where some people look at women as less than. So we have to call those people out. We have to hold those people accountable. You need allies on the other side, i.e. you need men doing the same thing. And we have to continue to push back. Women are strong. They're smart. In my opinion, they're better than men. And so we just have to keep pushing back on that, because there is no reason why a man should not give a woman the same type of respect and same type of treatment that they're giving another man. If you're going to come into the chat, I'm sorry, if you're going to come into the live, and excuse my language, guys, but if you're going to come into the live and be an asshole, equal asshole, I have no problem with that. Like, we can work through that. But don't target my co-host because it's a woman, and then you try to give me some level of respect. That it doesn't work that way, and we will not accept it. So I push back on it. You should continue to push back on it, and we just have to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also makes you look quite dumb when you won't take the exact same information first from a woman and then a second later from a man. It's incredibly annoying.
Yeah, no, especially
so
when Erica
that
says
was
it.
Jasmine Crockett, she's so got it.
Oh, I love her
Jasmine
so
Crockett
much.
is just,
I love her
talk
so
about
much.
shutting down people who need shutting down. Oh, it's ridiculous. But the other thing I wanted to ask, because I feel like, Will, you may have this come up a lot in your lives when people bring their religion and their beliefs into it. I completely see women as equals, totally, just so long as they're living biblically. And biblically tends to mean that you put your husband as Christ put the church, which means before yourself, but that's according to the Bible, which was put together by a bunch of men. And what it seems to boil down to is obedient, subservient, submissive. And when you say, but why should I be? Because God placed man above women. So you're saying that you do consider me less than. Well, biblically, but I don't. It's like,
Now that's what God said.
no.
Yeah, and
Because
Sarah,
it's coming out of your mouth.
yeah, I'll be honest with you. So I was really lucky in that I wasn't lucky that this happened, but my dad passed away when I was 5. So I grew up in a house with really strong women. I had a mother and 2 sisters. I had a grandmother who was a librarian, who was a really strong influence in my life. Her husband, my grandfather, had passed away. So for me, it was just normal, right, to have strong women in your life. I kind of lean toward what Santana said. Now, there are times when I feel like I'm speaking maybe with a rational, this is going to sound funny when I say this, but somebody who has misogynistic tendencies but still sounds like a rational person, maybe something nobody's ever taken the time to explain to them how what they're doing is wrong. So I feel like if I'm talking to somebody like that, I'll give them the courtesy of taking a minute to say, let me explain, why talking over the women in the panel is incorrect and how that shows disrespect. Because believe it or not, sometimes they've never been told that, So it's like, tell them what you're going to tell them. But I will tell you, I take the same philosophy that Santana does. It's your life, Sarah. You control that environment. It doesn't matter what anybody's religious beliefs are. It doesn't matter if they think you're inferior. When they come into your life, they're going to play by your rules. And I always tell people, if they can't do that, just jettison them. Get them out of there. Because you're going to have so much good conversation with the people that remain that want to respect you that it's going to make your life better, better, and better. And I get it. There are a lot of people out there that build their audience by fighting with everybody that comes into the box. And listen, if I was 20 years younger, I'd have the energy to do that too. And it might be fun. But that live is your place. You control that. So, if you want to take the time.
I don't have enough followers to have a live, but I still want to get the tips ahead of time because I feel like if I could have started a live even just like 3 weeks ago and I tried talking and people had come in and I hadn't known what was going to happen, I maybe wouldn't have been able to get out of bed for a while because people are so freaking mean.
Yeah. No.
When you do start doing lives, I would just remember that that's your territory. That's your property. It's no different. Look at it like it's your house. And the people that are coming in there are going to, behave by your set of rules that you have for your life. And if they don't want to do that, they can leave. And you have the right to kick them out. I think it's admirable if you want to take the time to explain to them why what they're doing is wrong. But if they don't give you the respect of changing their behavior, I would just boot them out. Because like I said, it's just in the long run, your lives become so much better. And you talk about so many creative and cool things that make a difference when you don't have somebody in there. In the country, Sarah, forgive my crude language, but we call it lobbing turds in the punch bowl. So it's like, if you don't have people throwing turds in the punch bowl, that punch is a lot more fun to drink. You know what I mean? So don't let them do that. Tell them to take the turds and lob them in their own punch bowl. You're not going to put up with that. So that would be my advice,
Exactly.
If I could be so bold as to give advice to a woman, that would be my advice.
And Sarah,
I asked for it. You listened. You gave me what I asked for. That is all any woman wants on a day-to-day.
Yeah, and Sarah, if I can say, 2 quick things. One, I completely co-sign what Will said. I mean, at the end of the day, your space is, depending on how you decide to do it, it's your space, and the rules of your space should be kept, and don't compromise yourself for anyone. No guests, no likes, no gifts, or whatever. You set your boundaries, and if those boundaries can't be respected, then keep it moving. And like personally for myself, I do this because I enjoy it, right? People say, Yeah, the funny thing that I get is, oh, how much are they paying you to do this? Yeah, no, I basically do this for free, right? Because I'm here for hours. I do this because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's one call out. But the other thing,
I'm still waiting on my George Soros check,
right?
Santana.
I think mine got lost in the mail or something.
Yeah.
I don't know where my check is,
Yeah.
but I need
Yeah.
it. But the last thing that I'll say is kind of co-signing what Will said as well. So Erica gets a little bit upset at me, and also management. Management is my fiance, for anyone who doesn't know, but management yells at me every night after I get off live as well, because I too can take a bit of a patient and try to explain this to these men that might be a little bit misogynist, because I agree, right? Sometimes it's just that they have not been called out, and if they're reasonable or rational, they'll take that feedback and say, okay, well, maybe I can, do X, Y, or Z. But at the very least, your space is what you want to do, and if you don't have the patience, get them up out the paint. Period.
Yeah. Hey, Santana, I was just going to tell you real quick, if it won't offend me at all if you want to put me down in a smaller box, because I think they're having problems liking the live because you're down there. So if you want to put me down there, that's fine. I'm not going to be offended by that. Okay, so you can get those likes. There you go.
We'll switch it back just for now. I mean, whatever. It's still your show.
We got a lot of people that want to like the live, so let's let them have at it.
Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming up, and thank you for the question. And I wish you much success on your content creating journey. I think you'll enjoy it, and as long as you're having fun, keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I
I wanted to give her a real quick suggestion.
Yeah, go right.
Santana, I love you, by the way. I just recently discovered you, and I believe I discovered you through Diava Talks.
Oh, I love Diva.
That's what I wanted to tell Sarah is go watch her live. If you want to know how to handle these people. Oh, you did? Never mind. I missed it. My bad. You're on top of it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and cook.
I follow
You got
her,
it.
but I love that she's got such wonderful word of mouth. That's so great.
Yeah.
It's like strong.
She's my personal favorite political TikTok creator here because we on the left, I don't care what your political stance is, but I'm, very much a leftist, of course, my name. And we are done taking the BS. We're done. It's just over. So she is somebody that I've really looked up to because when somebody comes in the box and starts spewing misinformation, disinformation, they start giving, misogynistic tones. She's like, nope, we're not doing this today. You are not messing with me. And if they take it even worse than that, she's like, get out of my house. She sweeps the floor clean. Yep. And I love that for her.
Yep. No, Diva was the very first person I had last week with Brunch with my creator. And she not only expressed that, but she shared something that I thought was super interesting. The fact that doing her lives and creating her content has helped with her confidence in her personal life. And the fact is that she has parlayed her strength that she displays on her lives and the control into her personal life. She was really worried when she started, but I tell you, I love the fact Diva will step on someone's neck and not let up. She does not play those games. That is,
That's what I was going to say is she didn't necessarily start out that way. Mm-hmm. So it's really been cool to watch that evolution,
The other thing is that she has a... Go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know if it comes across in my voice or not. It tends to get higher when I get nervous, but even in my low, serious, mean business voice, I'm not so much with the neck stomping.
Yeah. No, you'll be fine. Leftist, go ahead with your point.
The other thing about Diva is that she's doing something that I think is really interesting is that she has panel experts. She has Val and Jem and Jess and these people that have these real actual experiences with law, with the military, with government that come in and they back her up. So if there's something that she doesn't know, she has these people to back her up and put a stop to what these other people are saying. So Sarah, start associating yourself with people like this. These are people that know their stuff. And you never know. People will show up on your panel and they will back you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I come to learn, but I gotta go to mom.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, listen, I just to kind of co-sign, and you can see there's someone who's down on the panel right now, the Black Historian. If you don't follow her, please give her a follow. I'm saving her for last, but she is the exact same way. She has a wealth of knowledge, way smarter than me, not even close. But she has that same type of fire, that same type of assertiveness, and she clearly knows how to handle those situations. So again, just connect with people that you enjoy. Yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much for coming up, Sarah. I really appreciate the question, and I appreciate you spending time with us.
Thank you.
All right, have a wonderful
Have a
day.
good one, guys.
Thank you. All right, so Leftis, since you still have the floor, did you? I know you came up to speak with her about that, but did you want to ask Will a question?
No, not at this moment. I just wanted to promote somebody else who was, getting into this, and just really give them a little bit of encouragement, because it's important in this day and age, especially when I feel like this is the type of people that are standing on the right side of history, and I want to perpetuate that more and more and more.
Yeah.
I want to see a change in, the way the rhetoric is spoken in our country. And I want to get rid of, that orange face dickhead. Sorry for my words, but, I don't want to hear about him anymore. I'm just done. I'm done with it. So, but anyways, I'll drop down. Santana, I love you, man. I think you're great.
I love you more. I appreciate you so much.
You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. W in the chat for Leftist. Can we get some huge W's for him? That was awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I don't want to mess up your name. It's Pafita. Can you say that one for me?
Pafita. If you speak Spanish, so just pretend that the F is like PH in English. Pafita.
Pafita. I don't speak Spanish, but I can say Pafita. It's not as hard as Kamala, right? But I can say Pafita. But Pafita, what question do you have for Will?
Yeah, I actually thank you for letting me come up. I have a few, but because I'm also trying to be, well, not trying. I am a creator, I guess I could say. I'm trying to be a creator.
No, you are a creator.
Okay, fine. I am a creator, and I started with teaching Spanish, like neutral, right? Because I did that. And then I started hearing the different things. I was like, oh man, I don't like this. Mm-hmm. And so I did like maybe 3 political panels. But for me, it's because I also know Spanish. And so I opened up in terms of like, if you're a Latino for Trump. But basically, I just want to know advice in terms of, because immediately they came and attacked me. And it was kind of like a gain up. I did have 2 moderators the first time. The second time I didn't. But it just becomes like a free for all. And I think I need to have somebody else there to moderate the panel. So while I'm paying attention. So I guess the advice that I want is, because, then they start throwing stuff, and meaning like I'm illegal, I am, if I was born here. I mean, all these different things. So for me, it's just asking you, when you came, I'm sorry, and I'll land my plane, you were talking about when they say the portal, the illegal immigrants, like what is your experience and what do you see? Because from what I understand, you are a farmer, or you were a farmer?
Yeah. No. Listen, okay, so let's break this into 2 parts, because I think you're asking really 2 different questions here, and they're both really important. Mm-hmm. So let's talk first of all about the technical aspects of TikTok, okay? There's a strategy there when they do that, and what they're trying to do, Pafita, and you may just not realize it yet because, you're a newer creator, they're trying to get your live brought down, okay? That's what they're trying to do. So anytime you see people come into your live and they start making, borderline racist comments, or they start talking about you like that, they're putting your live at risk by doing that, and it's a strategy. It happens to me as well. I was going to try to give you an example, but it's hard to even give you an example because I don't want to hurt Santana's live. But there are some of them that create usernames where it's a sentence like, let's just say their username is I'm going to, and then they'll just put one word in there. They might say town, I'm going to town. Then they might put to bed, I'm going to bed. But just imagine it being a lot more horrible than that, okay? And they'll just post that one after the other. So from a TikTok strategy perspective, the best thing that you can do is, get to the point where you've got enough moderators to handle that, because you don't want to try to handle it yourself because you won't be able to focus on the content of your live. But the best thing to do to those people is to not engage with them. You just want to kick them out of your live. And, what I would do is I would block them so that they don't come back to your live again, because there's just a lot of racism across the board. And listen, they don't even have to report you. They can come in and make comments that cause your live to crash. So my advice to you would be, if you see that, just block them and make it so that they can't come into your live again, because that's a strategy. Yes, they're trying to be rude to you. They're trying to hurt your feelings. They're trying to make you feel bad. But more importantly, they're trying to quiet your voice and stamp your voice down for the long run, because if you get your live taken down so many times, you get your account banned. So just from a technical perspective, I would tell you that. Get enough moderators so that they can focus on getting them out of there. And before I answer the second part, let me be quiet and let Santana speak to that.
No, listen, I was just going to co-sign everything that Will said. It's a quote unquote chess game. My live has been taken down once since I've been doing this, and that's because I was not prepared for what was coming. To Will's point, since then I have the best mods in the business. Sorry, Will, but I have people like, I have Erica, she's a mod. I have people like Omega. I have people like Mo. I have people like Diva. Diva's one of my mods, and I have people like a lovely and amazing the Black Historian who's on my panel right now. She's one of my mods. But I say all that to say, put good people around you that's going to help protect the live and protect the integrity of your life. Like Bone is one of my mods. He's amazing. So they do things, not only like come up and they say, hey, tap the screen, which a matter of fact, let's tap the screen and get to 40,000 likes. They mention certain stuff like, gifting and all this other stuff, but they manage the comments, because if you're going to be a creator and you're going to actually do these lives, you want to engage with the people that you're talking to, and watching the chat goes by so fast. There's a lot of stuff that you don't see. And so they not only they mute people, they block people, they keep it cordial, and they watch what's happening. So just put the right people around you and you'll be perfectly fine. It's not necessarily just the hateful people. I mean, that they are kind of hateful, but they're strategic in what they're doing. So just be mindful of that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and this is I think the misogyny and the racism is so strong, and so I need fortunately, I need a male moderator, because then I think it was the previous one. I love her question, because they come strong, and I can't stand on business because I'm a strong woman, but I can't handle both. There was one I was by myself, and it was rough. Yeah. But I started speaking Spanish, and they left me because I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna even address it.
Yeah.
And then I just had 5 people.
I tell you what, and Des in the comments said mods will help develop a community a ton too. That's true. Like, your mods set the tone for the culture. And again, that's why I love Erica so much. Shout out to Erica, my co-host, best mod in the business. Erica in the chat. Well, I'm sorry, Will, you were going to go ahead and tackle the second part of her question as well.
Yeah, the last thing I would say on that first part, just in regard to what Santana said, is don't be afraid to bring your mods up into the box and let them go through the live with you, because sometimes you can step back and let a mod go after somebody, because I always say don't take it too far either. Like, don't just kick out people because they disagree with your point of view. If they're being respectful or maybe just on the border, keep those people in there, because it keeps the chat active, because we're just talking about the mechanics of a good live. But yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to toss them, in the event that they cross the line.
Yeah, and also, I'm sorry, Halo is an amazing mod too. I love Halo so much. Yeah. Halo, I'm sorry that I missed you. I apologize. Keep going.
Yeah, so on the second issue, just learning the facts about what undocumented workers mean to agriculture, PAFITA, is really important. And I can give you a few facts that you can use in every live. One is undocumented workers make up 40% of the workers in the agricultural industry. So if we followed Trump's plan of kicking out every undocumented worker, it would devastate the food industry and it would cause prices to go up over 3,000%. They are the backbone of the agriculture industry. The other thing that I would tell you is that the undocumented workers in this country, they give a lot more than they take out of the system. So what I mean by that is they pay billions and billions and billions of dollars in taxes, and yet they're not able to take advantage of the financial aspects of paying all those taxes. Secondly, immigrants, they pump $3 trillion a year into the United States economy. So even if you take out the cost of, like the minimum we can do, like helping their kids get health care while they're here, allowing their children of school age to go to school, all these other things, the cost of securing the border, even if you factor all of that in, it's not even close. It's not even close. Undocumented workers, they supply our economy with trillions of dollars, and even after all the expenses that we spend on helping them, they still put a lot more in than they take out. So anybody that comes in and makes this silly argument that, our hard-earned tax dollars shouldn't go toward, undocumented workers, just remind them that, they pump trillions of dollars into the economy, and we get a lot more benefits as American citizens that they do, and they pay just as much. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and thank you for that. I could not have said it better, Will. So I'm not going to add on to that, but I do think Palmer Chip. Did you say you came up because you wanted to say something else to Pafita?
Yeah, and one last thing. How do you get, I know somebody said they want to be a moderators, but the way I choose the moderators is because I got to know them, and I understand, like how do you, you have to, I guess, develop a TikTok relationship, or trust. And
so I'll share this because it's funny. Management told me that at first I was just making anybody a mod. But what I have done, honestly, it's people that for me it's people that I came across with on different lives and just interacting. And so it's people that caught my attention, but then also for me, and this is just me, it's people that have been a part of my community since I started, right? I noticed that there's genuine people. I will single out Halo specifically. So first and foremost, W for Halo in the chat, right? But Halo has specifically just been in my lives, right? She was just always here. She was always commenting and chatting and gifting and all this other stuff. And I said, hey, I like Halo. And so I just randomly made Halo a mod, and I just was like, hey, now you have responsibilities since you're going to be here all the time. So, that's how I picked one of them. But then you have people like Omega, which Omega, he was, again, in my lives, but he stepped up and he's like, hey, I'll mod for you. Like, you need help. I'll help regulate this chat. And that was one of the best mods that I could have possibly assigned, because not only has Omega regulated the chat and he comes up and he keeps people in line, but he's also giving me additional ideas. He brings additional content and topics to me. He makes sure that I'm on top of different aspects of things that I'm going to talk about. So it's just about finding someone that you trust, someone that you click with, and just building your community. It's really that simple.
Or I would even say, if you've been in lives and you know people that mod and you see how they mod and you like how they mod, you can ask them, hey, come over and mod for me, because I mod for a lot of big creators, and sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming, but you get other people ask you to mod for them. So I get to enjoy a lot of the content on this app, even though I'm modding. I get to get rid of some people who are problematic, even when the creator doesn't see them. So
yeah,
it'll be all right.
Listen, the Black Historian is my hatchet man. Like she does not play. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I just watching, and I just kept saying being muted, being muted, being muted, and I was like, what's happening? She was just sitting on the mute button with him. I didn't even have to do anything because the guy was just being like insane, and she was just so yeah, no, just find those people and reach out and just build your community. So. But Palmer Chip, did you have something for Pafita? Because I thought you said that in the comments, and I didn't want to let her go before that.
Hey, Santana, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just wanted to give her a little clue that we're finding out that they're so desperate of shutting our, not mine, but y'all lives down. What you guys got to look for is low followers, and they have a letter for a name, like say Q or K or W. Those are the ones that are going to be in your lives and take you down. So you have to have moderators to look at their following. A lot of them got 0 or less than 100. So they're there to cause chaos.
Yep.
And Santana, I wanted to say to you, awesome live with the boys of the night. That was brilliant. I want you to do more of that. You said you're going to the ladies. I'm not a creator, but that was brilliant. That was an excellent job. My God, that was awesome.
Yeah. No. Listen. I'm not gonna tip my hat yet because I'm still putting a bow on everything. But I'll just say stay tuned. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys follow me, you'll see that I do follow a lot of creators. I'm not a creator. What I do is I'm a promoter. I share their lives and try to get them out there and get them noticed with all my friends. Look, we've been on this. Personally, I've been on this for almost 4 years at this point. So I've got a lot of people. If you look at my likes or whatever, how you want to look at it, you'll see that I'm friendly with a lot of people. And that's my purpose, to get y'all out there. We get, another creator with another creator with another creator and come together, because this is a critical time right now. This is such a critical time right now.
Yeah.
Of what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing that wisdom, and I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you as well. I hope to see you with women on the panels at some point in time.
Stay tuned.
Love you.
Love you.
I know,
more.
right?
Thank you.
All right, bye, guys. Can you drop me, honey? Love you.
Love
I know, right?
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
guys. Can you drop me, honey?
Thank you. I'm gonna drop you down as well now since you have an echo, but thank you. And let's see here, last but not least.
Saving the best for last. Here we go.
Absolute best for last. Guys, can we get some W's in the chat? I saw somebody say TBH. Can we do some W's in the chat for TBH? W's for TBH. The Black Historian, what do you have?
I did have a lot. I'm from St. Louis area too, and we probably grew up in that area around the
Oh yeah.
Yeah. North County and St. Louis City, over I want to say west side by that YMP off of Page.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say I agree, we do get talked over a lot, and when I do give pushback, I get called angry and aggressive, and that
Emotional.
Just makes, emotional.
Yeah.
And you really can't. You be like, okay, well, if you're gonna keep talking over me, I'm just gonna drop you. And then they'll get mad, or they'll just won't say me. And then I want to say I scare off a lot of apps a lot of ops, because they don't want to talk to me, and they don't want to take direction from me. So that's one thing. My other question is, like, in a debate, when people come up and say it's more class war than it is a race, like cultural war, they say it's more of a class thing than it is a race thing. How do you debate people like that who are so set against it's the elite against class, against the poor people?
Well, the one thing I'd say about that is both things can be true at one time, right? Which that. So, I mean, the strength of America is its diversity of opinion, but it can also be its weakness sometimes, because the truth is there is a class war happening and there is a culture war happening all at the same time. And there's also, I don't want to call it a race war, but we've still got the vestiges. I mean, I feel stupid as a white guy sitting here telling two people of color this, but for everybody else on the live, we've still got the vestiges of Jim Crow days hanging around. And we've got a lot of people in this country who are in public office that want to see us go back to that. That's the truth. So what I try to do, BH, is I try to ask, the old debater in me tries to ask some questions to lead somebody down a path so I can figure out which one of those things is driving, their thought process. So, and then once you get there, that kind of helps you formulate, okay, how am I number one, going to argue with this person? Or number two, how might I maybe lead them out of the wilderness, by having a conversation with them from where they are? I think that's what Bill Clinton meant at the Democratic National Convention, where he said, meet people where they are. A lot of people got upset at that because they thought he was saying it's okay for people to be who they want to be. Well, it's not if they're being racist or ignorant, right? But I think the bigger point he was trying to make is, if you're going to lead somebody out of the woods, you've got to go find them in the woods, take their hand and lead them out, right? So that's how I try to deal with that, is ask questions for me to get to the heart of what's driving, their thought processes. And you can pretty quickly determine by asking those questions if it's race that's driving something. Like, are you talking to somebody that, anytime you talk about blue cities, they always talk about South Chicago. You know what that's slang for. Everybody knows what that's slang for. Or when you're talking to somebody, do they talk about, eat the rich and that type of thing? Just kind of ask those questions to figure out where they are. And then that helps you kind of meet them where they are to try to bring them back the other way. Am I answering your question, or did you mean something different?
I mean, not that was the question, because they always say it's not about race, it's about class. And then when you start asking them the questions, they call you the N-word, and then they leave.
Ooh.
And I was like, so it's not about race, right? But you figure, you didn't call me poor as a slur. You called me the N-word as a slur.
I was just going to say, that's pretty indicative of, I'm not laughing because it's funny.
I understand.
Yeah. No, this is a horrible example to use, okay? But as you get older like me, you start to get a little bit of the turkey neck and, all these other things that happen. When I first came on this app, that's how they tried to hit me. Hey, chubby. Hey, da-da-da-da. And it's like, man, I've been called those names all my life, But they're always going to try to hit you where they think it hurts the most, BH, always. Mm-hmm. And listen, man, like I said before, it's like, it's your life. And you don't have to spend a single second giving those people oxygen. I toss them. It's like there's so much awesome conversation left when you toss out all the idiots that's when things get good. That's when things get fun, And it's fun to argue with somebody on level ground who disagrees with you, respectfully. And I have those arguments all the time. So I always say there's no need to talk to the chowderheads, And I wanted to tell you, I'm doing just as from an ally perspective, I'm doing everything I can to help candidates up there where you are. I try to take a certain percentage of the money I make from around the rest of the country to get rural and minority candidates elected in Missouri. So at least this white boy down here in Southwest Missouri is doing everything he can to be a good ally. So just keep making your voice be heard, because more than anything else, that's what's going to have an impact,
I left St. Louis because of the snow. I'm in Georgia now, which is probably not even better, but
it doesn't snow up here anymore, BH. We don't. Climate change is taking care of that.
No, well, Donald Jimothy Trump told us that we just don't know it yet, but the planet's going to cool. It's going to go through a cooling. So, you'll be getting snow back soon. Don't worry about it.
Just a factoid geek from a farmer perspective. About 9 months ago, I attended a conference at the University of Missouri where they said by 2050, there'll be 27 days in the state of Missouri where we can't work outside without a suit on, because we won't be able to sweat and we'll die. Ooh. So that's where we're headed if we don't change things.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's
I'll
great.
leave you on that positive note, Santana.
Exactly. A black historian, I don't even think I need to add anything. You know the racist dog whistles. You know what it's about. I mean,
I do.
You know how to call them out. Like we see it. We know what it is, and it's super interesting how they try to go under this, veil and act like, oh, I'm not this. And that's why, you've set in on my lives, and I'm so adamant about her name, right? Because that's a racist dog whistle.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
I'm adamant about the eating the cats and dogs story, because that's a racist dog whistle. And so people try to hide behind niceties, or saying, oh, I think it's this, or oh, I'm from the South and it's just so hard for me to say her. I'm from the South as well. It's not hard. So you know what it is, and you know how to call them out. So
Hey, one thing I want to say about that, because this is a little bit of a bridge between country people and African Americans. Whenever you're on a live and you've got somebody that's calling her by the wrong name, and you can kind of tell maybe they're a rural person or whatever, the one thing rural people and African American people have in common is we take a lot of pride in our name. We take a lot of pride in our name. I mean, I've been told by many of my friends who are African American that as a young person, just like country people when they're young, your family really instills in you, take pride in your name. When you're walking around with that Westmoreland name, it means something. How do you want people to remember that? When you're getting ready to get a loan on a car, or you're going to stand up at a public meeting and speak, do you want people to be quiet and listen, or do you want them to think, well, here's just another shyster standing up? So when I tell people to say Kamala's name correctly, I try to give them that little story, especially when I'm talking to a country person, because I'm like, wait a minute, Bubba. You know the importance of the name. You were raised that way to know the importance of the name. So don't come in here and pretend you don't know how to say it. I know why you're doing it. You know why you're doing it. So stop doing it.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think that, I have the cross section between both, right? Because I am very much, not only am I from South Carolina, but I am very country.
You check off both boxes.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Like my fiance, she makes fun of me because I like camouflage, right? I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I enjoy deer jerky, and I haven't fished in a long time, but I enjoy all of those, right? And so I know exactly, like you're saying, the importance of a name, and even more so in like a family name. And I was always told, don't do anything to disgrace your family name, right?
That's right.
And so they get it.
They know what they're doing. That's intentional.
Yep. Hey, the Black Historian, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You know this.
Thank you.
Are you
Thanks
coming
for
out?
having me.
Are you coming to hang out tonight? Are you gonna be?
I'm coming. Yes, I will be hanging out tonight. I followed you Wes, because I need to listen to some of your lives and get some pointers. So I did give you a follow.
Will is so dope. You're gonna love him.
I appreciate that. Let me follow you back. So when you start doing lives,
Oh no,
actually,
she
I
does
did already.
Yeah.
I did already. I followed you already. So I'll be watching.
Okay.
And if you need anybody to come up and fight with those rednecks, just send up the Will signal and I'll come in.
Oh, will do. Thank you. I'll
you.
see you later today.
Absolutely. I was going to end it, but two more people just hopped in. Do you have time for two more questions?
Yeah, let's do two more, buddy.
Okay. All right.
Then I gotta go watch some NFL after that.
Yeah. Same here, because I have to go watch my team lose. So I will do that. So we have the last two people that just joined in, guys. No one else requests up, because this was originally supposed to be 30 minutes. We're going on an hour and 43 minutes. So let's knock these questions out.
I love it, man. Don't worry about that on my part.
No, you're fine. Okay, Dennis, you were the first one to hop up. So Dennis, go ahead. You teacupped. Dennis teacup. Okay, so we'll go to Queen. Queen, what question do you have for Will?
I just hopped in just to say hi to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I gotta go watch my Eagles lose.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
But
it won't be
I
as
was
bad
just
as
hopping in. I was in your live that night, and I mean, I loved it. I loved how you run your lives, and I appreciate it was just I loved it, and I like the way you handle your live. I'm trying to get to the point that I'm mod a whole lot, but it's just I'm trying to get my voice able to stop yelling and screaming, because what this it's so much stuff going on, and I'm having issues with the our our black men and the women's. How could you support a man that don't give a flying? I'm not saying it because it's the Sunday. I gotta respect my well, about them. That's what I just don't understand. It's just how can you turn on your own people?
Yeah, no, no, I agree, and so what I'll say, and if you don't follow, excuse me, if you don't follow Will, do so, please, because he shares a lot of the same tendencies as myself, and it's again, we started this conversation, and I mentioned the Southern charm, right, and I think that's what it is, the fact that we've lost a lot of the niceties of our country in this quote unquote culture war and the back and forth exchange as far as like tribalism, and you have to stand on one side and I have to stand on the other side, but Will takes a similar approach as myself as far as reason and also just bringing the temperature down. So if you haven't checked him out, please give Will a follow. And
I did.
Will has some of the best lives. Yeah, Will has some of the best lives I've ever watched. So, but thank you for coming up. I appreciate you so much.
Yes, and well, I'll catch you on your next live when you're on.
Hey, Queen, I do have a question for you because this came up on one of my lives the other day. It's a big thing in the country. We like to say if so and so and so and so had a baby, this is who they would look like. So I'm going to ask you a question. If so and so and so and so had a baby, this would be Santana. So you got to name two famous people that if they got together, Santana would be the baby. I'll give you a hint. On my live the other night, I had a woman on there and I mentioned Santana, and she goes, if Barry White and so had a baby, Santana would be the baby. Who do you think the two are? She says, I'm not going there, man. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
That's why I can't answer myself.
Now I want to know Barry White and who?
Barry White and what?
She said, okay, so on my live, you had a big fan on my live, and she said if Malcolm X and Barry White had a baby,
oh my God,
Santana would be the baby.
I will take that. I will take that as a whole compliment.
That might be the best compliment I've ever heard paid to somebody on one of my lives.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Well, hey, Queen, thank you so much for coming up. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
if I wasn't so lazy, I'd record that for you and send it over. But
that's
okay,
awesome.
well, I would definitely hit both of y'all lives.
Thank you.
Just send me an invite or something. By me following you, so I'll be able to see when you go on.
Well, hey, Late Nights with Santana is on every night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. We do
I think
3
you
hours.
followed me.
Yeah.
I think you did follow me. So
yeah.
I will definitely hit your live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you when you do your lives?
I always schedule them and announce them to my followers so they can be on different days, but I'll always go out there and schedule them. So if you follow me, you'll see them pop up. It'll give you an alert that they're coming.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, see y'all later. Have a good day. I'm going here and watch my Eagles seem like they trying to lose.
No. Thank you so much.
All right.
Santana, that's another good point we ought to make is I know a lot of people schedule their lives, but for people out there that are new creators, like some of my best lives are like when Biden decided to step down and Harris stepped up. Mm-hmm. I had one of my best lives by just popping up impromptu and doing a live. Yeah. So I always encourage people, like depending on what your material is, don't be afraid just to come on because something big happens, in the news or something like that. Man, I didn't mean to give you that. Now I'm seeing the Barry White comments.
Listen, I'll take it. I love. You'll never find.
Yeah, love the baby.
I love Barry White.
Maybe you and I need to do a karaoke live one time.
Listen, only if Bone. See, I see Bones in the chat. Only if Bone will do it with us because Bone has the smoothest voice. Period. So yeah. No, the one thing
I sing like a prisoner behind two keys, behind two bars, looking for a key.
yeah, no. Listen, the one thing I will kind of piggyback on what you just said, and I completely agree. I'm gonna get a plug in, guys. If you are not a subscriber, we do have a subscriber goal of 45 subscribers, so we need 4 more. And with being a sub, you actually get access to subscriber only live, subscriber only videos, subscriber only chats. You get access to the Discord, which I created a Discord, and we do a lot of those announcements. So like when we're getting ready to go live for Brunch with My Creator, not only did I post like who we're with today, but also I was able to put an actual like notification that, oh, we're going live, right? And so if you're a subscriber, you get access to the Discord and you know when we're going live. Or like yesterday, I end up having family night, so late night with Santana didn't happen at the normal scheduled time. I went into the Discord, sent it out to all the subscribers, let everybody know like, hey, we're jumping on. And yesterday ended up being one of the best lives that we had. It was so good. So yeah,
I won't ever forget that I came on to one of your early lives, and what did I tell you, man? You remember that?
Yeah, no.
I said you're going to be really good at this. You're going to make it happen.
Listen, Will, I still don't see what you see at all.
That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing.
No, listen, I tell everybody all the time, I'm just having fun, and we just keep
that's
having
true.
fun.
And hey, everybody, I'm a subscriber as well of Santana's, and those subscriber only videos are incredible. So it's not that expensive. I mean, all you got to do is skip one Diet Coke, and you've paid for your subscription for the whole month. Yeah. So you can do it.
No, listen, we just got 2 new subs. Welcome, Pafita. Pafita just subbed, and then also Max Joy. Max Joy just subbed. We just got 2 new subs.
There you go, man.
Yeah, no. But guys, so yeah, and if you want to join the Discord, reach out to myself or one of my mods, and we'll get you the link. We'll get you set up. Keep it going. It's really great. But Will, listen.
Hey, I had fun, buddy.
I owe you some. I owe you. I feel like dinner, maybe a steak or some ribs or something. I owe you something, Will, because you didn't have to take your time out of your day. I did try to make sure that it wasn't around the same time that the Chiefs were playing.
The Chiefs don't play until 7:30, man.
Exactly.
So you can keep me on here as long as you wanted to.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate you so much. Not only for you doing this, but for you being a genuine person. I mean, you did not have to show me the love and support that you have. Like you said, it was a genuine connection from the start. You hopped up. I appreciate the positivity.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
There's so much vaudeville on here that I really appreciate a real voice, man. So anything I can do to help, let's make sure we do a live every once in a while together. Yeah. We can come on your platform, then go on mine. And I think that'd be fun as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. But hey, thank you so much for coming up, Will. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for being amazing. Also, again, last call. If you have not followed Will yet, I have no idea what you're doing. You're wasting your time if you're not following Will. He has the most Willie. Willie came on my live the other night. He told me to tell you, hey.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he did.
Willie, man, you talk of, I mean, he is the quintessential New Zealander Kiwi, man.
Yeah, he is.
Like, if you were to draw up a comic book character for a New Zealander or Kiwi, it would be Willie.
He was hilarious, but he told me to make sure I told you, hey, I said, we got Will on Brunch with My Creator this weekend, so... but yeah, guys, if you haven't followed Will, please give him a follow. Yeah. Will, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much, my friend.
I see some of my followers in here, like Michelle. You guys follow Santana as well.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Will.
Yeah, you bet. Have a good day, buddy, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Guys, that was another successful brunch. I don't know about you, but I'm full. I had coffee. I had a great conversation. I had a great time. We made some new friends. We shared a lot of information. There were questions asked, and I want to say that it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for joining me. I will be back on this evening for Late Nights with Santana, which will be at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, 3 hours of fun with my wonderful co-host, Erica. We will be talking about, politics. We'll talk about politics. We will talk about, you know what? I don't want to give away. But join us tonight 11 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Ooh, 11 p.m. Pacific would be hard. Anyway, guys, thank you for your likes. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for the new subs. Let's get into the discourse. Thank you for the shares. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. I love you so much. And as always, peace.